Hey NAIA football fans, Cory here with another edition of the NAIA Ball Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. Our friends at AdCraft have been with us for many years now. They've run web stores for us multiple times. These guys are NAIA fans and family who are experts in the apparel and merchandise world. AdCraft allows you to take the hassle out of ordering. Let their knowledgeable design and customer service staff handle everything from hosting the store online, shipping the product, and helping your customers so you can get back to the game. Find them online at adcraftusa.com. All right, NAIA football fans, this is the NAIF Ball Podcast, powered by AdCraft Custom Apparel and Merch, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts since 1974. Been doing this for 50 doggone years. I'm Cory Thorpe. It is, when I'm recording this, it's Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, belatedly, to all those dads out there. Matt is taking time with his dad. I need to call mine at some point, but being a dad myself, I can choose what I want to do on Father's Day, and it's talk football. So, that being said, man, let's get to the KCAC Bissell this week. It's going to be an interesting one. You'll be surprised to see what happens at the end of the show on the rankings. So, not to give anything away too much, but, well, let's get to the getting. We start off with the Sterling Warriors, 2-9, 1-4 last year, 85th in SP+, just at the bottom of the division. Not the worst in the KCAC overall. Offense struggled, defense struggled, but you did have a few bright spots last year for Sterling. Alan Garcia there at your defensive line, 91 tackles, 15.5 for loss, 3 forced fumbles, a great spot for you. 102 tackles for linebacker Hunter Pullen with 5 pass breakups and 2 punt return touchdowns for Trey Dixon. The other good news, you have no one that's all KCAC leaving. Now, coming up next year, you break in a new head coach, new to the position, not new to you, with Reggie Langford, who was the offensive coordinator last year, and you do return a majority of offensive and defensive pieces there. You do only return a minority of your wide receivers, though, so Trey Dixon's going to have to do the stepping up there on the field, not just in the special teams, but on offense as well. One thing that I'll bring up here, because I just thought about it here, is that the KCAC last year did things a little differently than most other two-division conferences in that they did first and second team voting all together as one conference. So that's why I'm saying that, say, Sterling was 1-4 in the KCAC B for Bissell, but that it's all KCAC returning. These 3 guys made it for the entire conference. Now, I think that the KCAC is going to have to do this differently next year. They need to follow the trend of everyone else in the NAIA and report these as 2 separate divisions. You're going to have to do this. One, it makes sense for you because your Player of the Year candidate, you get an additional one. You can't win Player of the Year for the entirety of the NAIA if you don't win it at the divisional level, at the conference and division level. So you get an extra candidate if you report 2 all-conference players. Second, you've got to make sure that you are taking the coaches into account because there's no second coach of the year for the other division. And in some guys' contracts, that's going to cost them money. And a healthy sum of it, too, depending on the contract. You've got to be able to name that second one for the good of your coaches. And it's just fair. Everyone else is doing it this way that has 2 divisions. You're going to have to you're gonna have to get with the program here. But for Sterling, looking at the schedule there, you've got your first 3 games are going to be toughies. August 31st versus Bethel, at McPherson, and versus Evangel. It's going to be tough for Sterling. They're going to have to try to start as fast as possible to try to get a better start than their 2-9 record last year. Next up is the Tabor Blue Jays, 3-8, 2-3 in the Bissell Division. There, a little bit better on offense and defense for Tabor. They did, I believe, slip a couple of spots there from last year to this. They are bringing back a few spots there, especially in their special teams with Nathaniel Heilig. Heilig was 10-12 with a long of 50, which is a dang good stat line for an NAIA kicker. Broderick Smith, an average of 38.1, a long of 60, which is definitely top tier in the NAIA. They also bring back defensive back Brandon King, who had 4 picks last year. But the one that you're going to have to figure out how you're going to replace is Brooks Gardner. 84 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, and interception, and he's your long snapper. That is a huge value-add piece that you're going to be missing. You're going to have to figure out how you're going to replace a first-team long snapper. Good thing here is, though, that Tabor returns their entire offense. Literally, they're returning their quarterbacks. They're returning just about every running back and every wide receiver. William Green going to get the call for them at quarterback there. Jordan Bolden at running back. Deonta Hill for the wide receiver position. And then looking at your schedule, you start hosting McPherson, at Evangel, versus Bethany, and at Southwestern. That is that's also a toughie to do there to start off with. And your 4th game is at home against Friends. That's a tough month to start off with for the Tabor Blue Jays. But they do return a lot. We'll have to see if that's going to help them out and make life easy, a little bit easier for them, improve on that 3-8 record. Next up here was my dark horse from last year, and they didn't dark horse as much as I thought they would. That's St. Mary's. The Spires didn't catch the new logo this year. Looks very nice. It's a dragon. You should go look it up. Had a really nice offense. 45th offense by SP+, 5.596 yards per play. Defense could have stood some help, though, at 82nd, one of the worst in the nation. Now, that offense was headlined there by Jartavius Martin, 1,027 yards, a first-team nod at running back, 11 touchdowns, and Michael Gazana, 917 yards and 8 touchdowns, a first-team wide receiver. You also return all your quarterbacks with Eric Covington, so you've got a guy who's going to be able to get it to him. And then you did have the first-team punter in the entirety of the KCAC, a 40.9 average with a 79 long. That is a nice spot. And you've got no all KCAC leaving either, so that's that should bode well for you. St. Mary doesn't have their schedule up, but they do return nearly everything on offense and defense. They will be missing a few wide receivers and 1 or 2 of their defensive linemen from a year ago. I might have just been, a little late and not, or a little early and not completely wrong here with my pick last year for St. Mary. This might be the year that the Spires step it up. And with that, we are going to hear a word from our friends at AdCraft.
So you want to create and sell custom merch for your team or business. That's exciting, but where do you begin? How much inventory should you order? How do you distribute orders? AdCraft has your answers. Streamline the way you offer custom merch by utilizing our risk-free web store service. We ship directly to each customer, and we have the fastest turnaround in the game. Raise funds for your team or get merch to your employees and patrons. Contact AdCraft today and let's bring your merch to life.
They are the best at doing that. AdCraft are so good at what they do. Phenomenal folks. NAIA born and bred. They understand your world and what you're going through and how to be the NAIA school that you want to be. They do everything for Grandview, and they do a phenomenal job of it. They understand your situation and are able to help you achieve your goals. The web stores are phenomenal. You should look at them to start one of your, to do a web store for you, to handle all of that shipping that you normally, you got to call up the bookstore or something weird like that if you want to buy a shirt. These guys will handle everything for you. Great design, great customer service. Take a look at my friends from AdCraft. Well, next up are the Avila Eagles. New logo for the Eagles. Looks, honestly, a lot better than their one previously. Fell back a little bit after a high water mark for the program. New head coach there last year, going into his second year here. Had still a very good offense, headlined by Eli Williams there, 36th in the nation at 5.51 yards per play, 36th by SP+. The defense had some issues, though. 6.21 yards per play was good for 77th. Now, this is where it really, you can tell, Avila fell back last year. They had a ton of all-conference returning. This year, it's just Cordarius Wright, the two-time All-KCAC returning. And although I have no doubt that Cordarius definitely has deserved that honor there, it's going to be that second year for your head coach now. It's his team pretty much completely now, and you've got to be able to show some gains here to be where you were just a couple of years back. The good news, though, is that you return most of your pieces on offense and defense. Like I said earlier, you return Eli Williams. You also return Delshawn Coleman at your running back position, Kareem Chambers at your wide receiver position. You return most of your defensive line with Ishai Smith headlining that. All of your linebackers are back, headlined by Gavin Hembry. About half of your DBs headlined by Anthony Withrow. This is a team that could definitely make some noise, has been to the playoffs before, understands what it takes, and has seen that this division can be up for the taking if you can win it. Avila might be one to look out for. Now, schedule-wise, they do start it off with a game against Bethany at home. You do travel to Southwestern, play Friends at home at Bethel versus McPherson. So other than that Bethany game, you've got a tough slate coming in at first here, and it's going to be tough. You gotta make hay during that early part of your schedule to get that respect back next season. Now, last year's division champ is up next. It's the Ottawa Braves, 6-5, 4-1 in the KCAC Bissell. Yes, 6-5 won the division, but because of that 4-1, the Bissell was up for the taking. Ottawa jumps up. Ottawa gets it. Ottawa takes care of business when they needed to. They're the first team here that's going to be anywhere close to parity in their yards per play gained and allowed there. 43rd ranked defense, 43rd ranked offense, 59th ranked defense, 5.52 yards per play, gained 5.34, given up. That's good for 49th in SP+. And to be honest, this is where the issue with the KCAC only having one all-conference team really comes back to bite. Ottawa's the team that it's going to bite very hard. Winton Ruth is a first-teamer. A.J. Hemphill is a first-teamer. Jaden Johnson's a second-teamer. Roos leaving, Hemphill and Johnson are back. But you've got a host of honorable mentions guys that very well probably would have been second-teamers that would make this list look a whole lot more impressive than what it looks like. You are missing Ruth. 1,237 yards, 12 touchdowns, 6 yards per carry, 6.6 to be exact. You're also losing quarterback Billy Maples, 1,717 yards, 327 on the ground, 50.9% completion percentage. You are you've got some hay to make here if you're Ottawa, to be sure. You return few on offense. You return effectively no one at quarterback that was here, of course, last year. No running backs. You leaned heavily on Ruth. That's going to be a toughie for you. They have a couple of transfers coming in to help plug the gaps, obviously. They also hired a coach from there, so that does help to bring that over. Defense is going to have to be your calling card, and for Ottawa, a lot of times it has been. You return most of your D-line with Christian Coggs, all of your linebackers with Hemphill, and then a minority of your DBs with Elijah Hahn-Blewett. Your defense is going to have to make way for your offense to grow and get into a rhythm. This was an Ottawa team that returned a lot last year and were primed for a playoff run, and they made the playoffs for the first time in quite a long time and did a great job acquitting themselves nicely against, I believe, Dort, if I remember correctly. Taking a look at the schedule, you start off versus Southwestern at home. You go to Friends, host Bethel, at McPherson, versus Evangel. You're going to have to start really fast if you're Nick Davis and crew to cement Ottawa being a top-tier Bissell team. Right now, there's going to be some people that are going to consider them a flash in the pan because of that 6-5 overall record and the fact that you're losing a lot of players. It was one of those teams that may have gotten there on the backs of a lot of seniors and may not and may retreat right back to where they were now that the seniors are gone. Ottawa's going to have to clear the noise, and Ottawa is definitely going to have to show that they are a team with staying power. It's going to be tough, but I think they can do it. Then our last team, the perennial power in the KCAC, the Kansas Wesleyan Coyotes, had an off year last year, 8-3, 4-1. Saying that's an off year is saying something for Kansas Wesleyan, but unlike this team being in the top 20, top 15 of SP+, you're talking about a team in the top 35, ranking 34th. A usually high-flying offense was very much grounded last year, 34th ranked offense. 26th ranked defense still came to play. A whole yard per play difference between what you gained and what you gave up. And again, that all KCAC isn't kind to you. Obviously, the three guys that you're returning, huge. Nick Alsman, almost 560 yards. Ricardo Garcia was incredible, 54 tackles from that defensive line position, 10.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 9 pass breakups. My guy was getting his hand in those passing lanes quite often. And Josh King Bradley added another 3 pass breakups along with 49 tackles, 14 of those being for loss. You will lose Rico Moore, 90 tackles, 3 forced fumbles, 3 pass breakups, a big guy in your linebacking core. But you do return nearly all of your offense and defense next year. All your quarterbacks, Byron McNair is back. There are a lot. Byron McNair split time with Richard Lara and a couple other guys. All those guys are back. You return most of your running back production, most of your wide receiver production. Radarius Lomax-Spivey coming back for you in your wide receiver room. And nearly all that defense is all of your D-line, which is a huge statement. A majority of your linebackers with Shaylin Lewis. And nearly all your defensive backs, Julian Urioste being the headliner there. And in a conference like the KCAC, having nearly all your DBs back on a defense that was really lights out last year, it's got to warm your heart if you're a K-Dub fan. Taking a look at the schedule, you start off with a toughie, hosting Evangel, go to Bethany in a rivalry matchup. You play host to Southwestern, travel to Friends, and then host Bethel. That is going to be a tough first section of your schedule. And while I have no doubt that Kansas Wesleyan is going to have that name recognition to get ranked next year, especially with what they have coming back, you're going to have a fast start again. All of these teams, if they want to make a name for themselves, are going to have a fast start this year. Kansas Wesleyan, no different there. If you want to put yourself in a position to be a front runner for the playoffs, you're going to have to start fast. They can definitely do it. So then, what are our picks? And yes, I do have Schwaz's picks as well. So where are we going with this here? Well, first off, I'm picking Kansas Wesleyan. When you're returning that much talent in a year that was, by K-Dub standards, subpar, that's going to put a chip on your shoulder. Matt feels the exact same way. There's a lot coming back. I think Kansas Wesleyan wants to regain the throne. Matt does too. You're going to have to fight off a good Ottawa team that you lost to last year. And that's going to be tough. You got to start tough again, like I said, or start fast, like I said. For my dark horse, again, I'm not wrong. I'm just early. I'm going with St. Mary again. I like what they've got coming back. I think they can make some serious inroads. They could be the ones pulling the Ottawa card this year and coming out of left field. Matt is going to go for the Tabor Blue Jays here as the dark horse. Honestly, with this division, everything is up for grabs. This is so far the lowest ranked top team at 34th that we have dealt with. Everyone else has been at least in the top 20, if not the top 15. So what does that mean then for conference strength? Well, the KCAC slots right ahead of the AAC in the strength standings here at a straight 60 ahead of the AAC's 63.426. But in terms of standard deviation, the KCAC is the number one conference or division so far. The Bissell Division is number one, and it's by a wide margin. Everyone else is in the mid-20s. The KCAC Bissell Division is in the teens, 16.472, the next closest to the Frontier at 24.440. And so what that does then is it puts the middle of the pack. The Frontier loses a little bit of everyone above and below them loses a little bit of traction there to the KCAC. But that slots them right in the middle. So the question's going to be, what is the Kessinger division going to look like? That is a really good question, and one that we will be answering next week. Going to be a good one. Catch us next week. We will be back. Hopefully both me and Matt both will be back here with more KCAC action. This year we remember to do 2 weeks. So, for all you KCAC fans out there, you're welcome. But we couldn't do this every offseason and every season without our patrons. These are the guys. This is the team behind the team. You might hear that about boosters, but for us, our boosters, they're our patrons, and they are the following: DSU Cone, Bob Boone, Roger Meyer, Jeremy Vobble, Fred Christensen, Jerry Quickley, Swellen, Barrett, Marty Seabolt, Nick Ryan, Hayden Freno, Kyle Gregory, Tyler Pierce, Justin Hoffman, Steve Speakman, Brian Shake, Julianne Shager, Nate Soapbeer, Stephen Cutler, Julie Lout, Dale Norton, Nathan Moore, Dylan Gonzalez, Ryan, Justin Crawford, Jason Crawford, Dustin Wilkie, sorry Jason, Charles A. Flowers, Todd Nick, Sean Chamberlain, Debbie, Zach Lance, and Josue Trujillo. Thank you so much for being our supporters month in, month out. It means more than you know. Thank you so much. And that's going to be another episode of the NAIF Ball Podcast. We're looking forward to another great week. So, for Matt Schwartzler, I am Cory Thorpe, and I will see y'all next week. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the NAIF Ball Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA. Be sure to contact them for all your custom apparel, merch, and uniform needs. Thanks also to our newest sponsor, Telemetry Sports. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe to the podcast and to our YouTube channel, and leave us a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. As always, if you'd like to support what we do, head over to patreon.com/NAIAFball and become a patron. We can't do what we do without our sponsors and listeners like you.